Did you know we share around 98% of our DNA with gorillas, and they can live to about 40 years old in the wild? This, among other issues, will be our focus on this week's edition of Green Angle. Welcome. I am Esther Mafariola. President Muhammadu Buhari has drawn the attention of the United Nations General Assembly that climate change reduces the opportunity and prosperity in Africa, Latin America, and some parts of Asia, and contributes to the transnational organized crimes. But this comes just as world leaders call for urgent action to reverse cuts to vital health services for women, children, and adolescents caused by COVID-19, conflict, and climate change. Speaking at the Assembly ahead of the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt, scheduled to hold in November, President Buhari says the current administration has adopted a national climate change strategy, which aims to deliver climate change mitigation in a sustainable manner, as part of the country's efforts of achieving the global net zero aspirations.
Africa and other developing nations produce only a small proportion of greenhouse gas emissions compared to industrialized economies. Yet, we are the hardest hit by the consequences of climate change, as we see in the sustained drought in Somalia and floods of unprecedented severity in Pakistan. These and other climate-related occurrences are now suddenly becoming widely commonplace in the developing world. We are, in effect, literally paying the price for policies that others pursue. This needs to change.
He further called on global leaders to commit to releasing the financing and technology to create a stable and affordable framework for energy transition.
Fortunately, we now know what we can do to mitigate the effects of the climate crisis and the related energy challenge. As a first step, we must all commit to releasing the financing and the technology to create a stable and affordable framework for energy transmission. Development financial institutions must prioritize de-risking energy projects to improve access of renewable projects to credit facilities. There should be no countries left behind in this question.
In the meantime, the President is hopeful that the United Nations General Assembly 77 and the forthcoming COP27 summit would help galvanize the political will required to drive action towards the fulfillment of the various existing climate change initiatives. Gorillas are herbivores, predominantly ground-dwelling great apes that inhabit the tropical forests of equatorial Africa. Well, they tend to live in troops, with the leader being called a silverback. However, poaching, habitat destruction, and diseases threatens their survival. Gorillas are one of the most endangered apes in the world, with a population of between 100,000 and 200,000 specimens. The giant apes are from Africa and display behavior and emotions similar to humans. The largest of the great apes, gorillas are stocky animals with broad chests and shoulders, large human-like hands, and small eyes set into hairless faces.
It will interest you to know that we share 98.3% of our DNA with gorillas. So we look like them, we are like them, and all that. So they help in restricting transboundary or zoonotic diseases between us. That's why we must leave them in the forest and we remain in town for our own health.
Gorillas live in family groups of usually 5 to 10, but sometimes 2 to more than 50, led by a dominant adult male or silverback who holds his position for years.
Gorillas are large primates, basically herbivores. They eat leaves, plants, bark, fruits, and they occupy dense forests. Now, gorillas are known as umbrella species, and it means their range covers the range of other animals as well. Now, gorillas are very, very necessary to the health of the forest. They eat seeds, they eat fruits that contain seeds, and then when they poop, the seeds germinate. So you see they eat at point A and they poop at point B, C, D, E. So they actually help in seed dispersal and regeneration of the forest. In fact, there are some certain plants that depend on them. So in their grazing activity, they open up the forest, climb up a tree, decimate the leaves of that tree, and then sunlight filters down to the flora at the bottom to grow. So they help the regeneration of the forest.
The female gorilla becomes sexually mature around 7 or 8 years old, but don't begin to breed until a couple of years later. Males mature at an even greater age. Once a female begins to breed, she will likely give birth to only one baby every 4 to 6 years, and only 3 or 4 over her entire lifetime. This low rate of reproduction makes it difficult for gorillas to recover from population declines.
Currently in Nigeria, we have about 100 cross-river gorillas, and on the Cameroon side, we have about 200 because they are better protected there. So you would agree with me that the gorillas in Nigeria are endangered. In short, I would say critically endangered, because we have just a baseline population left to recover if we allow them to. What I'm saying in effect is we cannot afford to lose one more gorilla, and that's a fact. Now, why are they endangered? First of all is habitat loss. On the side of the habitat loss, we have 2 aspects. First of all, illegal logging. Now, these gorillas, they live in a dense forest, and this is a home to these huge timber and huge trees that these illegal loggers go for. So they create roads into the forest to get to these trees. And these trees, remember, are the homes of this gorilla, because they live up in the tree or on the ground. So first of all, they are losing the trees that are their homes, and then also this road that these loggers make becomes routes for hunters to go in to kill these gorillas for the bushmeat trade. Agriculture and all that also competes for habitats with these gorillas. So habitat loss is a major thing. Then also hunting for bushmeat. An average silverback gorilla weighs about 180 kg. So if you put that in meat, it's a whole lot of flesh. So it's high up on the bushmeat trade. And then also the illegal poaching trade. Now, if you get a baby gorilla to sell on the black market, it's going to fetch you quite a tidy sum of money. But what we forget is when you see a baby gorilla on the market, it's cute and all that, but we forget the gory scene that is behind that baby. Because the gorilla family won't give up their babies easily. So the hunters will have to kill the parents, kill the relatives. So that gorilla baby that's on the market can have about 10, 15 other dead gorillas in the forest. So you find out that this poaching and then illegal bushmeat trade and then the illegal pet trade, it drives the extinction of these gorillas.
Gorillas that come into contact with humans can be vulnerable to human diseases. Mountain gorillas can even die from the common cold.
Our diseases can affect them easily. Now, they do not have the immunity to the diseases we carry. So when hunters, illegal loggers, and all that go into the forest, we go with our diseases, they get exposed to it, and it decimates their population because they do not have antibodies for them. So that is another reason why we're losing our gorillas. We as humans, we are so stuck up in our superiority as a species that we do not think that we are interdependent on the life around us. Now we can act, we can be proactive, we can preempt that. The time to act is now, and we cannot shout it enough that we need to preserve our species. We need to preserve our ecosystem. We need to preserve our biodiversity. Not just because we like these animals, but because we like ourselves. So as an individual, as a community, as a nation, the onus of protecting gorillas falls on every one of us.
Green Angle returns in just a moment. Stay with us.
Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a centre for ivory and pangolin smuggling. So please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's work together to win for Nigeria. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Philip Obuese is a trained lawyer, but now he is an environment enthusiast who is also known in his local community in Lagos State for picking and sorting plastic waste. His passion for the environment, he tells me, started 3 years ago, and he hasn't looked back since then. His sole objective is to help reduce waste in the city, while sensitizing the public on the environment implications of plastic waste.
Yes, during my time in the university studying law, I incidentally did environmental law as an elective. In addition, I did petroleum law as an elective. And when I did petroleum law, I saw what magnitude of challenges, especially those that live in oil-bearing communities in the Niger Delta, the environmental pollutions. I saw firsthand what oil exploration in the Niger Delta can do to our communities. Beyond that, when I did environmental law, I started reading about all the numerous challenges, global interventions to address the issue of environmental pollutions. So I became interested in the issues of protecting the environment. I became interested in helping our people. Let me tell you one thing. I read so much about the effort of communities in the Niger Deltas to address the issues of environmental pollution. But some of them could not because they lack necessary experience. They lack necessary information and resources to combat the issues. I thought I became interested in that. I thought that if I take interest in this, I'll be able to help my community better. I'll be able to help address this global challenge that is now local. The SWEEP Foundation is born out of a personal desire to see a challenge being addressed. I noticed the challenge, I noticed the gap in our communities, and I thought that that gap should be addressed. And that gap is the absence of information, education, and resources on waste and environmental management. I think beyond the idea of going to schools is the fact to help people to change their lifestyles, to teach behavioral change. I heard of someone one of my managers here, who on the road saw someone throw off pet bottles, food drinks, bottled food drinks off the car. And the person looked obviously educated and enlightened. Yes, the person might be educated, but the person is environmentally illiterate. So what we do is to carry out community-wide sensitization. We create awareness. We carry out sanitation programs during which we now expound or teach people or tell people how they can live sustainably.
For a growing megacity producing about 2,250 tons of plastic waste daily, the task, Philip says, can be challenging. Some PET bottles, he tells me, fetch a good price in the recycling business, while others don't, but only adds to the growing waste management challenge in the metropolis.
We carry out sanitation activities. Loma brings their trucks and we gather our volunteers and we help to sanitize our communities. Then beyond that, we also do plastic pickup campaigns. We do that monthly. The essence is we have noticed from study, from research, from our analysis of the situation, that a large percentage of the flooding we see are occasioned by plastics and other recyclable waste in the gutters, in the canals. So if plastics in our drainages are the causes, or the immediate and even the remote causes of blockage in our drainages, then we took it upon ourselves to start extracting them, recovering them, and collecting them. But after some time, having collected and been in the business of collecting and extracting them from the gutters, it turned out, what do we do with them? What do we do with them? It's not food that we start to eat. We have to do something with them. We start gathering them together, and it became necessary to procure somewhere where we pack them. Initially, when we started, in a month, we were able to gather maybe 360 kg, 300 kg of plastics. But when we started gathering more, the need arose for us to get somewhere to put them. And that is the reason why we were able to secure where we are now, which is a hub, which is a collection facility of a SWEEP Foundation. When we collect them, we bring them here. And we have this workforce made up of women, widowed women, young women, elderly women, and other young people, both male and female, who work in different departments. Those who sort them, they remove the caps, remove the labels, and separate them according to their colors. Yes, so those women do that. Then when they are done with that, because we don't have so much space, we have to compress them, we have to build them. That compression will help to reduce their size. So when we have like 3, 4, 5 tons, 3, 4, 5 tons will fill up a space. But when we use a baler to build them and compress them, then you find out that a space that ordinarily will take just 3 tons, when they are built, they can take up to 10 tons of plastics. So we take them to another department that builds them, compresses them, and reduces their size for compatibility. Now, when that is done, there are off-takers. There are people who off-take from us, who either pelletize them, crush them, and help turn them into other materials. That is what is called recycling. We do not do recycling, technically speaking. We only collect, sort, bale, and dispatch them to the off-takers, the processors. The processors now help to turn them into some recycled materials.
Philip believes an enabling law to fully address this concern in this city of more than 20 million will make all the difference.
Today, in today's market, a ton of this baled, compressed, a ton of this goes in the market for about 220 naira to 240 naira per kg. Per kg of this goes for about 220 naira. Now, this is blue. So most recyclers will ask you, I want white and blue, because they are the easiest to recycle. So both of them carries the same worth in the market, in the recycling market. But there is also plastics PET bottles that are greenish in color. Well, these have some little difficulties in recycling because they are dyed, and they are dyed green. So in the market, they are worth about 17 naira per kg. Remember, I told you that white and blue is worth about 220 naira per kg. This is worth about approximately, give or take, 70, 80 naira per kg. That is those that are green in the market. Then there is another color, the browns. In the market presently, you can get this at 50 naira per kg, those that are brown in color. I do not want to deal with this because when you have so many or so much of this, it occupies space and is not really worth that much. The effort in gathering them, the effort in sorting them, the effort in baling them really does not really come to anything substantial economically speaking, but it is still there. But despite its worth, it is still far better than a PET bottle like this that is amber in color. The brown color is still a lot better than the amber in color. The amber does not really come to any worth. It is useless to me as somebody in this space. It occupies space. It is not worth anything. Collecting it, removing the cap and delabeling it is just a waste of time and resources. When we collect them because we are a social enterprise. We are trying to help the community. We are trying to decongest the canals and the gutters. But for us, it does not bring in any economic value. So we encourage the manufacturers, those who deal in plastic packaging, to find a way to turn their bottles into white or blue. It is even easier. This one is even costing more to produce because these ones are not dyed. This one is dyed. It costs more to produce this. This one come the way they are. So why I really do not understand why the companies dye their bottle. I think it's for brand purposes. But what is brand purposes when compared to the environment, the impact, the negative impact on the environment? To address some of these challenges that we have noticed, I am aware that the Ministry of Environment, especially here in Lagos State, has a draft plastic waste policy. What is the plastic waste policy doing in your offices? What is the plastic waste policy doing in the State House of Assembly? Let them come up with it so that we can begin to address in tangible and measurable terms these challenges. We can curtail the excesses of the manufacturers and the packagers if the draft plastic policy is put into law to enable us to begin to question the manufacturers of products in packages like this that are not recyclable.
Lagos State government says it plans to move to zero waste in the next 10 years. Now, Managing Director, Lagos Waste Management Authority, Ibrahim Odumbuni, said this during the inauguration of the Lagos Association of Recyclers, adding that the state also recorded 18 billion naira from recycling in the past year.
A recent study suggests that Nigeria ranks 9th among countries with the highest contributions to plastic pollution. And more than 88% isn't recycled, but only ends up in drains, rivers and lagoons. Following this concern, a group of recycling professionals dedicated in promoting waste reduction, reuse and recycling converged on Lagos to deliberate on adopting a circular model which focuses on collecting and recycling waste materials on a large scale, thereby limiting production of virgin materials and in turn reducing carbon emissions.
The value chain for recycling starts from even the household, the generator. As a generator, if you are able to separate your waste at source, there's a value to it. The moment you separate your waste, there's a value to it. So when a recycler comes to pick up, you are getting a value. And there has been a recent introduction of technology. In Lagos, we have engaged Packham app. So if you download the Packham app, at the comfort of your home, you can request collection, and the nearest recyclers come, it collects. So we have seen the consumer now benefiting, and now you have a collector.
When you look at the association called LAGRA, you have the different value chain players in the association. and they play a critical role to ensure that the different aspects that can help us to close the loop are being managed effectively to ensure that we can also get materials from the source of generation and then process it into productive use.
The state government, on its part, says it is investing in waste recycling and implored citizens to seize the economic opportunities that abound in the sector.
We in Europe of Lagra and also the introduction of some of the other missing pieces of the circular economy. With what we have now, for the circularity to be complete, all we just need now is education and awareness for everybody to use the tools that they have.
The Lagos State government is happy to be part of. It is particularly special to us because it's coming from the third sector, I mean the non-governmental organization, and coming forward to say that they can partner and collaborate with government in addressing the issue.
In the meantime, policymakers, consumers and manufacturers were asked to play their part to ensure the idea of reducing waste is promoted effectively and efficiently.
And that's about it on this week's edition of Green Angle. Until I come your way next time, remember, together we can build a sustainable world. I am Esther Makwariala. Bye for now.